for me. So they attacked him for being soft on Russia. That's my point. So when Obama's soft on Russia, it's bad. When Trump is soft on Russia, it's good.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're checking out a fiery debate between Mehdi Hasan and Dan Crenshaw on the Piers Morgan show. They really got into it over Trump, Russia, and the Ukraine ceasefire. Mehdi Hasan totally held his own in a 2-versus-1 situation against these mega fanboys. It was something else. Let's dive into the details and see how it all went down.
But do you accept that what we saw in the Oval Office and all the reaction that came out of it, this is terrible, it's this, and this, that actually in the cold light of what we've now seen unfurl since then was premature?
No, I don't agree. And it's interesting you use the word unfortunate, Piers. I've told you this before in the past when you say you're not a conservative, you're not on the right. You use language that always minimizes what the right does. If Joe Biden had done it, if Kamala Harris had done it, you'd have been up in arms. It was a joke. You know it was a joke. The entire world watched that in shock. No president has ever behaved towards an allied leader in public like that, maybe in private. We know what our European allies thought of it. They thought it was a disaster. They didn't think it was just unfortunate. And look, if your argument is bring him to the table, there are other ways to bring him to the table. I'm someone who supported a ceasefire in Ukraine for a while. In fact, a year ago, 2 years ago, if we had this conversation, I would have probably been the most dovish anti-war voice out of the three of us. Both of you would have been much more pro-Ukraine and hawkish against Russia than me. My problem is, while I want a ceasefire and a negotiated settlement, and I've said that since the beginning, even when I was doing my MSNBC show, I wanted it done by neutral mediators who have the best interests in peace. Donald Trump doesn't care about peace. He wants to win a Nobel Peace Prize. It bothers him that Barack Obama got one. He loved the fake ceasefire in Israel. He doesn't mind if he gets a fake ceasefire in Ukraine. My problem is the negotiator shouldn't be an American president who is so blatantly and viciously in the Russian camp. Piers, you cannot deny that he is not a neutral mediator. He only berates one side, not the other. He pushes Russian lies, right? If I had said the stuff he said a year ago, you and Dan Crenshaw would be attacking me as a Putin stooge. He said Zelensky's a dictator. Lied about that. Then he lied and said he didn't say Zelensky was a dictator. He said Zelensky had a 4% approval rating. That was another lie. He lied and said Ukraine started the war, an outrageous lie. Russia started the war with an illegal invasion. He lied about how much money America has given Ukraine compared to Europe. He's lied and lied and lied, and that is my problem. And my biggest problem, and Piers, surely you agree with me, is can Russia be trusted to maintain the ceasefire? I'm glad the ball's in Russia's court, but don't forget what caused that blow up in the White House. Zelensky, not rudely, but firmly asked J.D. Vance, how do you know Russia's going to keep the ceasefire? 25 times Russia has violated previous ceasefires. Vance couldn't answer the question, so instead he personally berated and insulted and verbally abused the president of Ukraine. That's what it comes down to now. Can Russia be guaranteed to hold a ceasefire? And can Trump ever hold Russia accountable? The one leader in the world he'll never, ever criticize.
All right, Dan, a lot to unpack there, but I think what I felt about this is that Trump's minerals plan seemed to be quite a smart part of this equation to peace, because it would calm down all those on the MAGA side who are outraged about the spending that's been going on in supporting Ukraine, who do not see the point of America doing this, who want America first and leave these foreign wars alone and so on. If you can have a deal based around accessing minerals that America can then use, and you can make it look like a transactional business relationship that costs Americans nothing, that's a better sell for Trump just politically with his base. I got it. I also think that Trump had a point. I'm interested in what you think as a military man, though, that whilst I accept what Mehdi says, that it is all about security guarantees, and that Zelensky's biggest fear might be actually what happens when Trump's no longer in office, that Putin might not try anything on his watch, but he might wait and bide his time and do it then, which he did, of course, with Biden when he invaded Ukraine. I'm just curious what you think about the idea that Trump had, which is if you've got American contractors all over Ukraine digging up minerals and they're there in big numbers and there's a business relationship there, is that enough of a deterrence to Putin to then attack more of Ukraine, because he would effectively be attacking areas that have a lot of American people on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, look, the minerals deal in particular is a good idea for two reasons. One, it's a political backstop for President Trump. As you mentioned. Second, there's now an economic entanglement between the U.S. and Ukraine, which is an implicit security guarantee. The Ukrainians agreed with this, by the way. It was frustrating, and you look at what Rubio really put it well when he explained on maybe CBS or whatever interview it was, why the frustration with Zelensky. He had agreed We were in Munich. We were in Munich with at this Munich Security Conference. So I met with Zelensky at that time. He seemed to have no problems with the mineral agreement. Seemed to think it was a good idea. Rubio had convinced him earlier, maybe that day or the day before, and then he would go out talking about how he's not agreeing with it. So there was a frustration within the administration. The White House blow up. I mean, I watched it myself as well, and my take from it was, this is not the time to be litigating past histories about Putin, whether you're right or not. This isn't the moment for it. It's time to have lunch, sign a deal, and get on our way to a peace deal. And so Mehdi's...
What is Dan even talking about? He's seriously out here like, Trump's mineral deal is great because Putin won't attack if there are American contractors hanging around. Like, that's the magic fix to stop Putin. Meanwhile, Mehdi Hasan nailed it perfectly when he said, Donald Trump doesn't care about peace. He just wants a Nobel Peace Prize because Obama got one. Dan sounds like someone who skimmed one article and thinks he's cracked the code. What do you guys think? Was Mehdi right on this? Or does Dan actually have a point? Let me know in the comments.
Complaints seem to be purely stylistic. Okay, so you don't like Trump's style and how he got people to the table. But how else would you do it? I mean, if you agree with the premise of a ceasefire, like, you do have to engage in uncomfortable flattery with the Russians. That is something Trump knows. It is how you wrangle them. And look, Zelensky has been pandered to by Europeans, by us for a while. Now look, I think everything happened as it should happen along the timelines. I think we needed to probably do a lot more than Biden did, quicker and faster aid to defend Ukraine in the beginning. 3 years later, Trump is right. It is time to actually start talking. And regardless of whether those talks have worked in the past, again, that was J.D. Vance's point in the White House, why are we litigating that? Let's talk about present and future. And that's a very American way of thinking, but it works. And it's not a very Eastern European way of thinking, right? They think in terms of the 1,000 years of history preceding them. This is the problem in the Middle East as well. Like, this is just, there's a cultural mismatch there, and I think that's what you actually saw unfold in the White House.
Also, on your point,
what
Dan,
we have is we seem to agree on the outcome here. We seem to all like the outcome.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing I would say, on your point about how to deal with Putin...
Mehdi, hang on. We don't know what the outcome is. We don't know what the outcome is.
No, okay, but we all agree that...
As of today, we seem to like it, right? I mean...
We like the idea that Ukraine has signed up to a ceasefire, which is a way further forward than they were in the Oval Office, when they didn't want to even speak to Putin.
Hold on, the bloc... Hold on, come on, guys. This is crazy that I'm having to be the kind of pro-Ukraine against the seemingly pro-Russia voices. The bloc on a ceasefire, are you saying that was Ukraine for the last 3 years that's been the only bloc on a ceasefire? Come on.
No, I said Ukraine agreed to a ceasefire.
Ukraine and insisted not to do it.
Why are you twisting our words?
The idea that...
No, nobody said that.
Because you're saying that...
It's honestly gross seeing Mehdi Hasan get teamed up on in this clip. You've got Dan Crenshaw pushing this whole mineral deal idea, acting like Trump figured out some genius move to stop Putin by putting Americans in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Piers is pretending he's neutral, but clearly siding with Dan, creating a 2-against-1 situation. Mehdi was totally right to point out that Trump's not looking for real peace. He just wants credit for something big. The fact that they're trying to spin this like Trump somehow figured out global peace is pretty wild. What do you guys think? Does Mehdi have a point, or are Dan and Piers actually onto something? Drop a comment below.
We're in a ceasefire position. Can I finish a sentence? You're saying that Zelensky went to the table because Trump bullied him in public. And by the way, I'm loving this from you two, that this language we're using today to coddle Trump, he's not even here and you're both so worried about his feelings. Piers talking about unfortunate. Dan said stylistic. Come on, I have memory of longer than a goldfish. Barack Obama talked about a reset with Russia. Your party, Dan, went nuts.
All right, can I just
People called him a stooge of Russia.
Mehdi, if I may.
Hold on, no, I just finished my sentence.
I need to be able to actually put a question to you.
You don't want to call it 2 against 1. I haven't spoken about Russia for the last 5 minutes. You both have been speaking. Can I finish one point? Let me just make one point. It's not stylistic. It is Trump being objectively pro-Russia, pushing Russian talking points. And if a Democrat did it, Dan Crenshaw and you, Piers Morgan, would be all over them and not
a
say
Democrat literally did it because Bill Clinton, I put a clip out that went viral last week of me interviewing Bill Clinton in 2012, and it went viral for a reason, because he was talking about how he dealt with Vladimir Putin when they were both world leaders. And he said, what
let's
you
talk
have to
about
do with
Obama.
Putin, you don't criticize him in public. He said, but behind the scenes, you have very tough conversations. And interestingly, he said...
So then why did Obama get
hang
so
on,
much...
let me finish.
Why did Obama
Stop
get so much shit
interrupting,
for the
Mehdi.
reset?
You said you hate interruptions. You're a bloody
interrupted
master
me.
at it. Stop interrupting.
You interrupted
Practice
me
what
earlier.
you preach.
You interrupted me earlier.
Practice what you preach.
What's hilarious here is Piers Morgan telling Mehdi Hasan, stop interrupting, practice what you preach, when it's clearly 2 against 1. I mean, seriously, Piers, you're lecturing about interruptions while you're literally cutting him off. It's so ironic. Mehdi is just trying to point out that if any Democrat acted like Trump did, both Dan Crenshaw and Piers would lose their minds. What do you guys think? Let me know down below.
Well, it's 2 against 1.
Can I
but that's
finish,
fine.
please, Mehdi?
I'll wait.
Thank you. And he
Please,
simply
your turn.
said, that behind the scenes they had very tough conversations. And I said to him, could you trust Putin if he gave you his word on something? He went, absolutely. He never went back on his word, which I thought was interesting. And I've heard that from other leaders, of what Putin says in public and what happens in public is one thing. What happens behind the scenes with him is another. We don't know what conversations Trump has had with Putin behind the scenes, but we do know he's following the same playbook in public.
Because he tore them up.
He's following the same playbook in public.
He tore up the
If you
notes.
may not interrupt me, please. We do know he's following the same playbook as Bill Clinton advocated in that clip. And he was a Democrat president last time I checked. So there is a strategy they have for dealing with Putin, which may be more effective than simply doing what you'd like everyone to do, which is call Putin a monster. I'm happy to. I think he is a despicable tyrant. He's a dictator. He
pretty
illegally
sure you've
invaded
called
a
him a
sovereign...
monster more than I have,
Hang on.
Piers, for the last
Stop
4 years.
interrupting, please. I think he's an awful dictator.
Well, you're giving a speech now, Piers. I thought we were doing a debate
you should
here.
be
You're now giving
you
a
should know
speech,
all
so
about
I'm
that,
gonna interrupt
Mehdi.
you.
But let me finish and I'll come to you.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mehdi on this one. Piers Morgan was out there giving a whole speech, literally saying he's a despicable tyrant, he's a dictator. It's funny watching Piers lecture about interrupting while he does exactly that himself.
He's a ruthless dictator, to be clear, who illegally invaded a sovereign democratic country. But do I think that Donald Trump has more chance of forging peace here when that war is clearly at a point where it's just going to kill more and more people for very little territorial change? Yes, I do. Far more than Joe Biden ever even looked like doing. Over to you, Mehdi.
No, I don't have much to add other than to repeat my point, which is I'm not for war. I'm the most dovish person on the 3 of us on this panel. My point is a very simple political point, which maybe neither of you want to hear, which is that when Democrats are in office, if they ever try and make peace or do deals with dictators, they get attacked by Dan's party and Fox for being soft on defense. We all know this is undeniable. In Washington, D.C., they're called soft. They're called sellouts. Obama was demonized for many reasons, including his Russia reset comments. All I'm saying is the Republicans come into office with Trump, not with any other one, not with Romney, but with Trump. And when Trump does it, they all flip and say, let's have peace with North Korea.
Well,
Are you kidding me? If Joe Biden had said, I'm exchanging love letters with Kim Jong-un, the Republicans would have crucified him. Everyone here knows.
All right.
Let me explain to you the difference between rhetoric and actions. So under Obama in 2014, what did Russia do?
It's very patronizing.
Refresh my memory, since you have the memory longer than a goldfish. Oh yeah, they invaded Ukraine. And did Obama give any weapons to Ukraine for self-defense? No. Trump did. Javelins.
And did your party
stingers.
attack him for that? Hold on. But didn't your party attack him for that?
Don't
you just
interrupt
made my
him,
point
Mehdi,
for me,
please.
Dan.
No.
Thanks,
Mehdi,
Dan.
let him speak.
No.
Thanks, Dan. You just made my point for me.
Let Dan speak, please.
No,
Mehdi, stop
what are you
interrupting.
talking
Yeah,
about?
Republicans attacked
My party-
Obama.
Wait, are you saying my party attacked Trump for
Republicans
giving Ukraine
attacked Obama
javelins and
for no. I said
for letting
Republicans
Russia
attacked
invade
Obama
Ukraine? Yeah.
for not arming.
Yes,
You're making my point for me. So they attacked him for being soft on
No,
Russia.
you're not.
That's my point. So when Obama's soft on Russia, it's bad. When Trump
point
is
is
soft on
action.
Russia, it's
Stop
good.
interrupting.
Do you see the hypocrisy here?
No, there's no hypocrisy because we
You've
look at
interrupted me
actions.
multiple times. That's
So
the point of this interruption.
Trump actually has taken actions against Russia to include arming the Ukrainians. So, if he hadn't done that, by the way, Ukraine would be Russia right now.
He just cut off. He just cut off aid.
For
Sorry,
3
Dan.
days,
Come on,
for like
don't
3
stop
days,
gaslighting. He
it's already
literally
back on.
and people
It's already
died. And how
back
many
on.
children died? And how many
It's
people
already
died?
back
How many
on.
people
What are
died
you
in those 3
talking
days? You want to tell the
about, Mitchell?
viewers?
That had nothing-
Do you want to
that
tell the
had
viewers
no
how many
effect
people
on the
died?
tact-
Were there
You
not
know
rocket
nothing about
attacks?
warfare. You know nothing about on the ground on Ukraine. That had no effect on the ground in
Okay.
Ukraine. It had zero effect.
But-
4 days of supposedly
you were
cutting
just-
off aid had zero effect.
I don't need to know about warfare to know that you
I'm
just
not- I'm not
misinformed the
done with
viewers.
my list
He
of
literally
actions
cut
that
off
Trump has taken.
arms and intel.
I'm not done with my list of actions that
And he
Trump
cut
took.
off arms and intel.
Okay.
Dan Crenshaw really missed the mark here, claiming that Trump's weapon support to Ukraine was some huge victory while totally ignoring the broader context. He argued under Trump, Ukraine was given defense weapons that actually saved Ukraine from being totally taken over. But Mehdi Hasan set the record straight, highlighting how Republicans criticized Obama as soft, yet now praised Trump for similar actions. Mehdi nailed the hypocrisy perfectly, pointing out how differently Republicans would have reacted if a Democrat said they were exchanging love letters with North Korea. Mehdi's got a point. There's definitely a double standard here. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. This is Cole Talk, and I'll see you in the next video.